Hello and welcome to Live at Epiphan. This is episode number something.
31.
30. Wow.
We've already done 31
All right,
episodes. Can you believe it?
Wow. That's why I'm losing track. So many. Anyways, welcome everyone. It's Thursday, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're here to talk about everything streaming, and we have a great show for you today. So check us out, Facebook, YouTube, all those places, and maybe even a little more today. So anyways, what do we have?
Well, today we've got a really useful topic, which is something that a lot of people have actually been asking us about, and that is multi-streaming. So what is multi-streaming? Why would you want to multi-stream, and how do you actually do it? So if that sounds interesting to you, stick around. We've got lots of information for you on the show today.
And as always, please ask us any questions you have. This is a pretty interesting topic that we do get quite a lot of interest in. So any questions you have, put them into chat. We have people monitoring, including myself, and we will do everything we can to address your questions about our topic today. First, we'll take care of a few news items. Today is the end of NAB New York. Epiphan has been there for the past couple of days, getting lots of attention. We've seen some photos where it looks like it's been very busy, which is great. So anyone who has attended our booth there, thank you very much. And anyone who is hoping to, today's your last day, so it's probably only a couple hours left, so get in there if you're in the New York area. What else do we have?
Well, actually, I wanted to just point out to everybody that we now have the Epiphan community forum on our website. So if you go to epiphan.com/forum, you'll see it here. Why don't we show a little bit of it, Lisa? We've got a bunch of awesome threads going here about Webcaster X2, about how to stream different signals, how to get your video signal where you want it to go, information about all of the Epiphan products, whether it's Webcaster X2, Pearl 2, lots of great information. We've got a lot of good conversation happening on the forum. So if you want to jump in and participate, we'd be happy to have you there. You can just go to epiphan.com/forum, and we'll see you there.
Fantastic. Some other news this week, you mentioned Pearl 2 in there. We released a firmware update for the Pearl family of products, version 4.4. It adds some neat little compatibility updates for those who do a lot of heavy video editing. So if you've registered your Pearl, you should have gotten an email announcing that rollout, and you also should have seen the automatic update notification in the administrator UI. So go ahead and update that. If you have any questions, like I say, that email has release notes, but it's just some small pieces in there talking about just ways that we continue to improve compatibility with Pearl.
Awesome. Yeah, 4.4 update. That's really cool. I'm excited about it as well.
Yeah.
The constant frame rate
that's the big one.
In the recording is what I'm most excited for about this update, because it's going to play more nice with Premiere Pro.
Yeah, exactly.
Which means dragging those files, your MP4s, your MOVs, right out of Pearl into your Premiere timeline is going to be beautifully easy.
Yes.
No transcode required. So 4.4 update, very exciting.
Exactly.
I have a news item I wanted to mention.
Oh, really?
Lisa, why don't we go to full screen on the laptop for a second? Just wanted to wish a big happy birthday to our dear friend, George Burchell.
Other George.
Other George, as many know him here on the show. And there he is with his awesome sunglasses and hat. He turned 40 today, and we're very excited to celebrate it with him. So happy birthday, George. I guess for your birthday, you get to not have to be on the Live at Epiphan show today. Just kick back with your popcorn and
just a little bit of public shame.
Enjoy the show. All right, well, let's get to it. Let's get to our main topic. Today we're talking about multi-streaming. So I got to ask you, George, I've heard this term thrown around. What does multi-streaming actually mean?
So in the way we're going to be talking about it today, multi-streaming refers to doing a live stream across multiple different platforms simultaneously. And this is a question that I get a lot from a lot of different customers, from our Webcaster customers, our Pearl customers, in between, even people with grabbers, just using software and so on. So we wanted to cover in detail what that means and how you might do it, and some of the different ways that you can do it with either equipment you already have or what equipment you might be looking to add into your mix to get that set up. So we are doing, as hopefully most of you know, we multi-stream this show on Facebook and YouTube every week. So that's an easy example of ways that you might do multi-streaming. And then today we've added some other pieces in there that we'll look at as we go through it.
Yeah, we're actually multi-streaming right now to a new platform, which we've been mentioning here on the show. And why don't we go to picture-in-picture for just a second And you'll see here we are actually multi-streaming to Vimeo as well this week.
Vimeo Live.
Vimeo Live. This is actually my first time testing Vimeo Live today. So I've been playing around in there a little bit, trying to see what features are available. I think it's pretty cool. I've always been a big fan of Vimeo. They are really great at building community. They also have a lot of features that some of the other platforms don't, which we will get into more next week. We're actually going to be covering this topic, Vimeo Live. So anyway, we just thought it would be interesting, since we're talking about multi-streaming today, to multi-stream to another platform. So we're actually live on 3 platforms right now.
So from my perspective, being a tech guy, I can understand how this works in the back end, but why would I even want to do it in the first place? Because I look at it from a tech perspective and go, this is just going to be a headache. Like, how many other things do I have to deal with?
Right.
How many things does our producer, Lisa, have to start and stop? How many, I got to monitor all these. So why?
Well, let me ask you, George, do you have a Facebook account?
Of course.
Do you have a YouTube account?
Of course.
Do you
Multiple of both.
Do you have any other social media accounts that you use?
I use Twitch quite a bit. Use Mixer a little bit, not a lot.
Okay. And why do you have all of these?
Different content.
Different content? Maybe connect with different people? Some people you are friends with on Facebook. Maybe there's different friends that you have on Twitch.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? So all of these platforms offer different communities, different collections of communities of people who you can reach. And that's really, I think, the main reason that someone would want to multi-stream, is that you're increasing your reach dramatically. If you're just going to one platform, you're limited to the people who are using that platform. If you go to multiple platforms, you're just expanding the possibilities of who you can be connecting with and who you can be streaming your content to. So
it's about extending your reach.
Extending your reach, you can build an audience on different platforms for different reasons as well. Like, perhaps you would want to build your YouTube audience as a primary audience. A lot of people start on Facebook, actually.
Right.
So Facebook is a great way to build your audience when you're starting out, when you're smaller, because you already have your existing network, your 1,000 friends and their friends. And
we've talked about that on previous shows, where it's easy there because it's quick shares. It's a little more organic in terms of how you can get viewers quickly.
Exactly.
But why would you not want to just stay there?
Well, YouTube offers a more global audience than Facebook does. In a lot of cases, you can reach people in different continents of the world. YouTube is everywhere. It's the number 1 video site. So why would you not want to be able to reach your local network with Facebook and also a global network with YouTube at the same time?
So enter some of the elements we talked about. Vimeo Live is launching this new service. Why would I choose Vimeo Live if I already have these other 2 platforms? Why would I need to add a third headache?
Well, every platform has, first of all, every platform has its pros and cons, right? So Vimeo, although new, we don't know necessarily what all the pros and cons are, but with Vimeo, the advantages that I see is that Vimeo allows you a lot of control over where your video is seen and who can access it. So perhaps you'd want to do like a private or a custom embed on a site that's behind a paywall. Or maybe Vimeo also offers a feature of like email capture as well. Maybe you're having a webinar and you want to be able to collect emails during the webinar and reach out to some different people. That could be very useful. So that's where, having multiple platforms that can all have different purposes. One thing you could do, just another example I was thinking of is, let's say your primary stream is going to a platform like Twitch, but maybe you want to be able to also record your videos. You could stream to Twitch and also stream to a private YouTube channel where you record all of your gameplay footage, for example, and like it's your own PVR for recording.
And because YouTube has some of their own built-in editing tools and things like that, you could do your post there with that, download it from there a little easier.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe you just want to have a backup stream. Like, what if a site, what if the primary site that you're planning to stream to goes down? Now, I mean, YouTube and Facebook typically don't go down, but if you have a mission critical live stream and you don't have a backup plan and you're completely relying on someone else's server, it might be a good idea to stream to another backup as well.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Lots of different reasons why someone might want to. And I think there's going to be more reasons as well, whether it's content aggregation or whether it's reaching new audiences. There's going to be a lot of reasons why someone might want to live stream to multiple platforms simultaneously.
Right. So I guess one of the big questions, and coming back to my perspective on it, looking at it from a tech perspective, is this seems like not only is it a lot more work, but that I might have a lot more special considerations to take into account. And that's, I mean, just purely mathematically, that is absolutely true when just looking at bandwidth, right? Trying to do these things. So, that's a big consideration. The system you're using for encoding, whether it's a computer running an AVIO capture card, or whether it's Webcaster, or whether you're dealing with Pearl 2, that equipment's going to play a big role in it as well, in terms of what capabilities does it have baked in versus what else you might need to add to the scenario. So, we were going to look at in some detail of each one of those sort of types of examples and see what you might need to do with that. But I'm just going to check here for some questions. Just to see if there's anything I can quickly answer. It looks like our team's answering quite a few of your questions in chat.
Actually, we have a question from Pedro here. Pedro is asking, how much bandwidth do you need for live streaming, for multi-streaming rather?
So, I mean, we talked a little bit about that, I think, several episodes ago now when we did our bandwidth episode. But the math is pretty straightforward. You take your encoding bit rate, let's say it's 5 megabit, which is one we commonly use for YouTube. And if I'm sending that same type of content at 5 megabit to YouTube and to Vimeo Live, I'm now at 10 megabit, right? And so you just kind of keep doing that math. If I'm trying to do 3 at 5, now I'm at 15, right? So it's pretty straightforward to figure that out. Obviously, you also then want to look at what is your maximum upload speed. As we've mentioned in the previous episode, do that 1.5 multiplication so that you can figure out what your headroom is,
right?
And kind of go from there. So, that's the quick answer. How much bandwidth do you need? That depends on how much encoding you're doing and how many platforms you're trying to do at those encoding settings.
So each additional platform that you stream to, that stream is an additional chunk of bandwidth that is being used.
Potentially.
Yes.
There are some ways around that we're going to, I think we have some good examples to hopefully help some of you, but that can be platform restrictive at times. So I think in general, yes, it's a good rule of thumb to keep in mind, depending on the style of method that you choose. So if we dive into that a little bit more, let's look at, just because it's straight in front of me, doing something like a capture card, right? If I'm doing that from my computer, most of the software options out there that you're going to see, because of the limited performance of most people's laptops, they're not really geared to do a lot of multi-streaming native to that app. So you take something like OBS. OBS really only has a single output. It doesn't have multiple stream destinations built into it.
Like when I'm in the OBS interface, I can only stream it to one spot.
Right. Exactly. So you've got to choose that carefully. Webcaster, and this I think plays into some questions I'm seeing in chat here as well. Webcaster, and this is a common question I get all the time, it has Facebook and YouTube built into it, but it can only do one of those at a time. It cannot simultaneously do both. There are two reasons for that. The biggest one being that Webcaster uses the APIs from YouTube and Facebook. It is a violation of the terms of service in the API to multi-stream when you're using those APIs. So inherently, because we are licensed to use those APIs, we can't. What you could do is grab yourself a super slim monoprice HDMI splitter.
Yes.
Right? Very simple.
Okay, let's set this up right now. Let's see what we do here. Okay, so we've got a splitter. So let's say that this is coming from our camera, this HDMI. We're going to go into the splitter.
Yeah.
Boom. Okay, just pretend that that's a camera.
Sure.
And then I've got two HDMI cables and two Webcasters.
Yep.
Right? So we'll come out of the splitter, splitter number 1, into Webcaster number 1. And let's say that one's going to YouTube.
Yep.
Splitter number 2 into Webcaster number 2. And that one could be going to Facebook.
Yeah. So that's one way of doing it.
Two encoders.
Exactly. Two physical encoders. And if you're looking at the more basic level of encoders like a Webcaster, that's absolutely a way to do it. You're still looking at a fairly inexpensive hardware cost. Was an inexpensive 1 to 2 splitter is not a big investment, right?
No.
So it's pretty easy to add that, especially this one. I don't know, you guys found this one somewhere. This thing is so small.
That was just sitting on my desk
I
this
could
morning.
strap
Like,
this on top of a Webcaster and carry it around with me.
really, you could.
It runs
off a battery
5
too.
volts, so yeah, you could run it off of anything 5 volt. So, you know, that's a great option to do multiple hardware encoders if you're going the hardware encoder side. If we look at the serious level, look at something like Pearl, which is what we use here in the studio, then you got a lot more options.
Let's put the Pearl front and center. We'll move these webcasters out here for a second. We'll talk about Pearl a little bit more.
Sure.
So, Pearl. We are, like we mentioned before, we're actually streaming to 3 platforms using Pearl right now.
Exactly.
Vimeo, YouTube, and Facebook.
Exactly.
So how many platforms can Pearl actually stream to simultaneously?
Really, that depending on how you configure the Pearl, that's really only limited by your bandwidth.
Okay.
So there's 2 different ways of doing it on something like Pearl. Pearl, although it's a single box, has the ability to function as a multi-encoder in itself. So if we were doing 1080p streams out of Pearl 2, we could actually be encoding 1080p 6 different times. Each one of those encoding channels could be pointed at different endpoints.
Okay.
But it also, within each one of those, could be pointed to multiple endpoints.
Got
So
it.
when we look at the example later, you'll see that even with only one channel, we could send it to, you know, however many destinations we want,
So
provided
really-
we have the bandwidth.
Pearl is like having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 webcasters for encoding,
And
right?
potentially more. Yeah.
And potentially more, depending on what
Right.
quality level of those encodings you're doing, right?
Exactly. So again, one of the nice parts about something like Pearl, and you know, again, when we look at the example in a second here, the way we do it in the studio is we do one channel that's encoded specifically for Facebook, but we use different encoding settings for YouTube. We're sharing those same YouTube encoding settings today with our Vimeo stream, so it kind of shows the best of both worlds. And so when you step up into something this big, this powerful, you get a lot of options. You got a lot of flexibility that you can use to really fit any multi-streaming scenario you might run into.
And you also, I guess, have the option of creating different levels of encoding. Like you could do a 4K encoding with Pearl, and then perhaps you could have lower quality encoding for another platform.
Yeah, there are other limitations in there depending on what your mix of settings and things like that are, and obviously, you know, we have a full list of sort of specs with Pearl 2, and that maybe is a show unto itself.
But certainly powerful enough to get multiple signals
Exactly.
out there to the platforms you need them to go.
Never mind the mixing and switching and the multiple inputs and the scaling and the chroma keying and the yes, this.
Yes.
So, you know, a full-featured platform is going to give you a ton of options, but you know, not everyone's looking to invest at that level of equipment, and so
Let's say that you
basic.
maybe are working with a grabber and an OBS.
So coming back to something like
How do you live stream to multiple platforms if all you have is a video grabber?
well, there, you might need a little bit of third-party help, and so there are a number of services out there that will redistribute the stream for you. You could host this yourself using your own CDN server, like a Wowza server or something like that, where you would push to that destination in the cloud generally, and then have it redistributed.
Okay.
Hosting yourself is kind of I don't know, that's probably beyond most people unless they're in a corporate environment.
I was looking into that a bit this week, actually. Like, I found a server platform called Nginx that seemed like, you know, reasonably either free or affordable, and you could set up your own custom RTMP server, push your stream to that, and then redistribute it wherever you need it to go.
Right, and another service out there, and maybe we can do a small picture-in-picture here, Lisa, while we look at it, is...
this is Nginx right here.
Yeah, so that's Nginx, and they're one example.
So you can run Nginx on like a Windows server, or even use like an Amazon web server that you could rent.
Exactly, so there's ways of doing that for your own. The other way of doing it, entirely cloud-based, would be a service like Restream.
Okay.
So that is going to be, depending on the platforms you need, it is a little bit platform restrictive, but it gives you the opportunity to push, you know, let's say it's OBS or even a Pearl if you have limited bandwidth, push that to their RTMP entry point, and then Restream as the name would suggest, quite literally restreams to your selected platforms.
Very cool.
So they have a free tier where you can choose some of the examples you see listed there. YouTube,
Yeah, actually-
Twitch, Periscope, Ustream, Mixer, so on. But they also have paid tiers where you could add in Facebook and others. So it's a pretty cool service. It basically is acting as a middleware to minimize the amount of bandwidth and, depending on the encoders you're using, for example, OBS on a laptop, minimize that for yourself as the operator, but still hit 5 or 6 platforms.
Yeah, I was actually playing with Restream yesterday and this morning, and it was pretty cool what I was able to do with it. So why don't we show like a little demonstration very quickly? So you see here, this is the Ustream platform. Lisa, why don't we just go to picture-in-picture?
Yeah.
So I've got it set up with I think like 6 different platforms right now. You can see offline, that's because I'm not actually streaming to it, but if you add a channel, you see there's a lot of choices. Some of these are free, other ones you do have to pay, like Facebook. You can't use Facebook without paying. You can't stream to more than one of the same channel also without paying.
Right.
So there's some paid tiers involved. But another thing you can do here is you can turn on and off which platforms you want to stream to just using the interface.
Save a whole bunch of them, and then the ones you need that day, you just check them off.
You set it up once really, and then this could be your all-in-one, right?
Right.
I'll just show a very quick demonstration. I'm going to add actually a stream here using Perl. So we're actually looking at the Perl interface of the Perl that's actually running this show right now.
So this is a bit risky.
Yeah. So you
If
can
we
see,
suddenly vanish,
yeah,
it's
if we
his fault.
go away, it's my fault. But, you can see here our YouTube stream is happening here. We've got our Vimeo stream. I also have a separate channel with 720p encoding, and you can see that that's streaming to Facebook right now.
So that comes to what I was mentioning earlier, is that we are encoding 2 different output channels from the Studio Perl, one at 1080, one at 720 for those 2 different platforms. But if we go back to the YouTube Vimeo one, we have 2 different RTMP push instances. They're both being encoded at 1080 at 5 megabit. They're just going to those 2 different platforms.
Yeah.
So we don't have to be encoding a ton of different channels if they're all sharing the same encoding settings.
Right.
So in this case, if we're doing Restream, we can add a third RTMP instance.
Why don't we add another one right now? I'm going to actually add another RTMP into our Perl right now. So here we go. Now, obviously, I need to just go here, grab the RTMP URL. I'll put it into Perl. Boom. And I'll take the stream key, which I will be changing after the show. And we'll put
Why
it in.
would you want to do that?
And we'll put it in here and apply. Okay. And now all I have to do is click Start. And Perl will go ahead and start the stream. And we'll see if this works. Okay, it says it's going. The counter's ticking up. And there we go. We see it in the preview.
Right.
And now we're going to see all of these other platforms
Start to come on.
start to come up. So Periscope is up. We've got a warning with Periscope. Now, the reason that Periscope warns us is because our stream is actually 5,000 kilobit, but
They want about 800.
yeah, Periscope is optimized for mobile, right? So it actually is requesting that we send a much lower quality stream than what we are. But for Mixer, okay, Ustream's up, and Twitch and YouTube are connecting. Now, for some reason, in my testing, YouTube always says connecting. But we'll just take a quick peek here. I think I've got another window here with some of the other streams. Okay, and there we go. So this might be a little bit of streamception right now, but you can see we're streaming to YouTube, we're streaming to Twitch right here, we're streaming to, okay, Periscope isn't working, and I think there it is.
There it just didn't automatically play.
So we're streaming to Periscope, and here is, what is this, Mixer?
Mixer, yeah.
You like my username there, Assessed Rug. That was auto-generated.
Awesome.
I thought it was kind of neat. And then finally, we've got Ustream also. So right now, Live at Epiphan is actually streaming to 2 YouTube channels, 1 Facebook channel, 1 Vimeo channel. We're also streaming to Mixer,
Periscope.
Ustream, Periscope.
So we're like 7.
I think we're streaming to 8 different channels right now.
8 different platforms. Okay, using a mix of things between Perl doing 4, and then you have a number coming through Restream. So
yeah, we're doing a few of these streams ourselves as individual streams, and then we're also restreaming some of them as well.
But the nice part is one of those streams out of our Perl, because Restream's handling 5 more platforms. I'm not impacting the bandwidth here in the office with those additional 5.
That's
So
just it. Like if we were trying to do individual streams for each of those platforms, we probably wouldn't have the bandwidth to do it,
No.
would we?
No, I mean, if you're talking
I mean, it's
about
possible. It's not impossible,
5
but you need like a solid fiber connection.
5 megabit times 8, come on.
Yeah. That's a lot.
That's pretty heavy. So,
Yeah.
but those are some of the quick examples, I guess, of a number of different ways to do this. So if you guys have questions about multi-streaming and how we did some of that stuff, please put them in chat, and we'll do our best to answer those. I see a bunch of questions in there. A lot of them are not talking about multi-streaming at the moment, so I'm going to let my team address some of those as they have been. And definitely, as always, if you guys have questions after the show, send us an email, live@epiphan.com, and we're happy to answer them there as well.
So why don't we talk about what's happening on the show next week? We did touch on Vimeo a little bit today. We're going to do a little bit more testing here in the office, and then we're going to go into more depth next week and kind of
dive.
take a little bit of a tour of the Vimeo platform, see what it's offering right now. At least in our testing so far, it's working. The quality looks great, so we're excited to dive in and try out a few more things.
Yeah, and it'll be really interesting to see how they evolve this platform since it's a new piece for them. You know, their advertising that they've been hammering me with on YouTube tells me that they're going to have everything you love about Vimeo for live, right? So the access control, the billing, all those other cool things that Vimeo can offer content creators, if that's coming to their live platform, that could be really amazing. And that could be great for a lot of content creators who have been heavily reliant on advertising revenue from some platforms that is starting to diminish.
Well, that's the big thing. I mean, the revenue model is going to be democratized as more and more platforms come online.
So,
right now, the monetization options available for you as a content creator are very limited. So Vimeo, it's great to see that there's another platform coming online, that there's going to be some competition there, and that more possibilities for content creators.
Absolutely. All right. Well,
Do we have any other questions? I think. One thing I wanted to point out just quickly before we wrap up the show today. We did mention the Epiphan forum, and it's been great seeing everybody on there so far. So thank you very much for everyone who's been contributing to the Epiphan forum. We had one of the common threads that's coming up is how do you mount your Webcaster onto your tripod setup? So
And Scott, I know you're watching right now. So this one's
yeah, Scott. Hey, we really liked your setup. I'm actually just going to show it for a second here. Lisa, why don't we go to picture-in-picture just for a second? So Scott had figured out a way to mount his Webcaster right onto his tripod, and he's doing that by just using like a tripod plate with some industrial strength Velcro. So you see it right there. Now the one thing we do want to caution, of course, is these vents on the bottom of Webcaster are important. It does need to have those ventilation ports. So, I mean, this isn't covering them up too bad.
No, that should be fine.
I think it should be okay, but
you used Velcro to cover all of them, that might be a problem.
Exactly. Now, we actually had Victor in the same thread showing a setup here with his Webcaster, and this is a really nice setup, I gotta say. Tripod.
It looks like some sort of crazy alien, but...
yeah, he's using some dog bone arms and a clamp, like a typical clamp that you'd find for video production. So we're going to link to those. We'll put those in the Facebook group, but we're also going to include links to some of these setups in the forum. So if you want to keep up on, all the cool ways that you can trick out your Webcaster X2, just make sure to keep checking the forum, because it's a great place to share those photos and links to find all of those accessories as well.
Yeah, like I'm just looking at where he has that clamped, and there's definitely a couple of places on the sides where you could clamp that without interfering with any of the ports or anything like that. And so maybe that's one of the easier ways to do it, to just
exactly, just a little clamp. So
cool.
We'll be sharing that in the forum, and if you wanted to find everything, make sure to check the forum. We'll be there, and you can communicate with us there as well. So I think that's probably it for this week.
Yeah, I'm going to answer one quick question here before we say goodbye. Brian is asking about would you need an AVIO with a Pearl 2 in order to capture a DVI signal? No, Pearl 2 has HDMI ports. Just using a simple cable or adapter from HDMI to DVI would work just fine. You don't have to have a native DVI port to do that, just a simple adapter. So
Yeah, that's the great thing with DVI and HDMI is those adapters are like
Yeah.
$1.
underneath, they're essentially the same signal.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to adapt back and forth between those two.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Well, I'm glad we were able to answer your question. I think we're going to leave it at that for this week.
Yeah, that's great. So as always, like, subscribe, follow, do all those things, and catch us next week for a deeper dive into Vimeo. For now, I'm George,
And I'm Dan.
and we'll see you next week.
So long.